Good afternoon and welcome to the first in this special series, An Afternoon With. And as you can see, to my left, right, I can't work it out, is David Fisher. It's amazing that David can join us this afternoon for all of us here at Tanfield School. We got lots and lots of questions for David, which I'm going to try and get to most of them throughout this next 45 minutes and put them to him. So I just want to say a big thank you to those who submitted questions. So we had Donnie, Ben, Jaden, Ben, Lachlan, Caris, Millie, Jude, Willow, Lucy, David, Daisy, Tanya, Tyler, Jack, Oliver, Molly, and Lathan. So thank you for all your questions, and I'm going to try and put them to David as we go forward. So it's amazing that David could join us. David is the editor of some massive television programs that I'm sure you've all heard of. So His Dark Materials, Doctor Who, ITV's Vera, The Bear, and lots of others. So it's amazing that David can join us and just to talk about his experience, his career journey, and what it's like to have that type of job as well. So David, thank you for joining us.
No, that's no problem. Thanks, Dan, for having us. It's great. Yeah, I'm really excited. Nervous and excited.
I suppose probably just to say right from the start, we know each other because we worked in McDonald's together, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah. For a couple of years, it was great.
It was. When I was in sixth form at the time. In kind of was like a side job. I think, were you in college?
I was. I was there I worked there for 5 years. So it was from sixth form into university. I went to university, then I went to college, then I went to university again, which we can talk about if you want, with the media degree. So for 5 years, I worked at McDonald's and I did data entry as well. So I did McDonald's on the weekend and data entry through the week, and went to university as well. So I was kind of doing everything. So we were there a couple of years ago.
I've got a real, even though it was a long time ago now, I've got a really vivid memory of breaks at McDonald's. Yeah. Can you remember when we all used to pack into that tiny little staff room? There'll be that TV in the top corner.
Yeah.
But I think you introduced me to some films that I'd never seen before in that time. Because I think there was you and a few of the other lads used to bring in VHSs.
That's right. Yeah, I remember. It's great.
There's probably students who can't even remember VHSs.
That's true.
Can you just let's kind of get back to basics? So you're an editor. Could you just give the students a bit of an overview of what actually is that job? What is an editor?
Yeah, sure. So I work on those TV programs you've mentioned, but basically an editor takes the footage. So say the shoot starts on a Monday. So the director, the camera department, the DOP, the lighting, all of that, the actors will shoot one day. And then let's say day two, the Tuesday, I'll get all the material in the edit. So the assistant editor will, I was going to say some very old terms there, but I won't say that. We'll transcode the material into Avid media for us. And in the cutting room, I will then take the scene bins for the things that were shot the day before and assemble those and put them together. So that's my job during the shoot. I'm going to stop
you there because you used a lot of technical language.
Right. Yes. Okay.
So just in basic terms, you kind of and stop me and take over because I'm about to summarize your job in a really poor way here.
Go for it.
But you take the footage that's been filmed on set, and then you put it all together. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yes, that's exactly right. I know,
but I'm sure
make it sound a lot more complicated than what it really is. But yes, I take the footage, I put it together.
I'm sure it is a million times more complicated than that. But just so we get a basic idea of it is what it is. But as I'm sure you're going to explain, there's a lot more to it than that. We're going to go to a student first.
Sure.
And Lucy has recorded a message, a question for you. So I thought we'll go to Lucy's question. We'll see where that goes, and then we'll kind of get into your journey from being from Winlayton in our local area and how you've made it to where you are now. So this is Lucy's question.
Okay.
Hi, David. What is your favourite part of your job?
Well, I think, we've just started talking about that. And I think, thanks for the question. I think it is the assembly, but I like all elements of the job, so I don't want to like, you know, say anything negative about the later bits that come along. But I think the assembly is a lot of fun because, you know, you are on your own. You have an assistant or you have a team with you, but really day to day when they're shooting, you are putting the material together by yourself. So it's kind of a really creative time for an editor because you're assembling from scratch. You're taking, you know, all of the rough material and finding a way to put the scene together. So they'll shoot, like on the job I'm working at the moment, you'll have like 5-page scenes of dialogue and action, and that will be then shot for say half a day. And I might end up with 4.5 hours worth of material. That's like A and B camera together, 4.5. And I have to get that down to about 5 minutes. So I have to go through a lot of those takes or all of those takes and just kind of craft a 5-minute scene. So that's, for me, that's like a really creative part. And then the job's great because then you'll go on to the next stages of director will come in and work on that scene with you. And so really it's quite broad. I think the assembly is a lot of fun for me, but then I do enjoy every element of the job as well because there's different ways of keeping the job fresh. So that's really cool.
That really fits in quite nicely to another question from Willow, who said, how many times do you have to rewatch the same material? And I guess I guess on the back of that question, my question is, do you ever then sit down when it's all done and actually with your partner or your family actually watch the program, or have you just watched it too many times you can't deal with it?
Well, again, the beauty of that is when you finished as an editor, it's then sound mixed and picture graded. So picture grading will be to match the colors, you know, because the light might be a little bit hot, like brighter on one shot than it is on another. So that's really basic, but they will match those two shots. So when you're watching it, you don't see a change in light, a change in color. It's all quite seamless. So I can finish a job, go on to a new job as a freelance editor, and start the ball rolling again on a bunch of new material, different kind of program altogether, say from like a crime drama like Vera to Doctor Who, which is sci-fi. So it's a total different genre of job. So that gives me enough time that when it's sound mixed and it's picture graded, when it's finally on television to broadcast, it's kind of seeing it fresh again. And also it's been tweaked since you've seen it. So I do enjoy watching it. And also I know it's like quite geeky, but I really enjoy seeing my name on TV still. So it's, you know, so it's good fun. So
yeah, that's cool. Who wouldn't enjoy seeing that? What is it like to see, you know, that moment when you do get to see a broadcast and you see like for example, like just behind you on the wall there, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, if nobody knows, that's the first episode of the last Doctor Who series, which was history making. It was the first woman doctor. So you edited literally a bit of television history that will be remembered for a long time after we've gone, I imagine. You've got His Dark Materials, a massive international project there. When you sit down and then watch that on TV, how do you feel? What feelings like surface as you're watching it and think, I worked on that?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, like it is still fun, you know, to be this many years in. It's still fresh and it's still exciting, and it is a good feeling, and it's nice hearing what other people think of the program as well, getting their reviews, even if they're negative. It's constructive, so it's not always a bad thing to get negative comments. It's still quite a positive, really, because you learn from things like that as well most of the time. And it's just it's good fun seeing your work out there and knowing that all the hard work that you put in behind the scenes is paid off because other people can see it. And I mean, it's something I've said quite a lot recently, but I do stand by it. Like, I'm only one little cog in the machine. And as an editor, you're taking a lot of the material that other people have already like worked on. So costume department, camera department have shot it, lighting, actors, directing, and various other things. And you're kind of marrying that all together to try and present it as the best possible thing. So it's a lot of responsibility as an editor as well to do the right thing, to do the good job, you know, and then to see it on TV and then be like, yeah, I think we did a good job there, you know.
That's cool. Let's return to kind of more of the job side of things.
Yeah.
So we've got a few student questions as well. But for now, can we kind of rewind? So going back to when you were in school. So like I said before, you're from Winlayton, and you went to school in Wrighton. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very close to us. So just a couple of miles really from us. Was the passion for film and TV and editing, was that there from an early age? And kind of, could you take us through that journey of how you got from, I suppose, being a student in writing to editing some of the biggest TV shows in the world?
Yeah, it was at school. It was like of a young age. My history was always watching VHS, or which it's probably streaming now for the kids. But like, I was obsessed with movies and TV when I was like so young, and watching action movies or things like that as a kid, and then going to school and just talking with friends in registration class about movies that were on TV the night before, things like that. And it was always like I remember most of our discussions or chats in the morning were always about TV and about film and things we saw. So it was just like the passion grew from that. And I think what's lovely about education now is that there is a lot more things geared around the TV world and media production and things like that. I mean, I haven't been to the school that I went to. Wrighton Comprehensive is now the Charles Thorpe Academy. I think it's in the same site, but I think that they might have like more things geared towards media. So hopefully hopefully a lot of people are embracing that world, because in the Northeast there isn't that much going on, and that's something I did find out later down the line. And also at school as well, you did kind of get an inkling that you might not get to that stage, but hopefully I've proven that you can. so don't give up. If that's what you want to do, then you should really go for that. But yeah, so school, a lot of love for TV and film, and then but stayed true to like my education of like business and things like that, other things, just to kind of see, to gauge where my interests lie, just to kind of as a backup. And then I did eventually, and we can talk about it if you want, well, if you want to ask another question. But yeah, very young age, I was obsessed with TV and film. Basically.
Yeah, we do. Just at the back of what you were saying there, we have film studies at Tanfield.
Amazing.
So we, Mr. Heffernan, big shout out to Mr. Heffernan. He leads the that course, which is quite popular as well. So it's did you have anything similar? You're saying you didn't have anything similar to that when you were at school?
No, nothing. Nothing. there was nothing at the school, and that's why I liked compute. I like computing as well. So I just kind of honed in on that in business studies. So I came out of school. Really, obviously, would love to have got into media, but just saw no way of getting into it. So I was really down to like it was coming up to September and like not having a job. I was working at McDonald's at the time, but I didn't have any kind of inkling of like a career. So I went to Northumbria University and just looked to see what courses they had, and they had a computing for business HND. So I was like, right, I'm gonna have to go and do that, and it was great, but I didn't really love it. But when I was doing the course, it was a fun course, and you learned about computer programming and web design and things like that. But I was writing scripts and just like short stories and films and things like that, and just really like, this is really what I want to go for. So after that, it was time to get a job after I graduated. I did graduate and I got an HND, so I did stick it. Then a friend of mine was looking at Newcastle College, and they've got a media course, media production, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to go and try and enroll on this course." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm not ready to get a job yet." And media production has always been the thing that I've like thought about, but I didn't think I could get a job. So I went and I got on the course, and I did 2 years at Newcastle College in media production and a final year at Northumbria University, because it was a way of getting a BA honours, but also learning the different craft of editing, which is something that the industry uses a lot of, and it's a software called Avid Media Composer. So it was a way of me getting my hands on that and learning that before hopefully going into the industry. But yeah, that was it. Like, I didn't think I could get anywhere, but I thought I'd give it a go, and then I did get a job. If you want us to talk about that, after graduating,
I think just from what you're saying, there's an amazing message that I think we can all take away in terms of the route you were on. You changed it, and I think a lot of people, and I kind of include myself in that as well. You just think, well, I'm doing this now. This is who I am, or this is what I'm doing, or I'm not getting very good grades, and this is just who I am, or I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna go to university, and I'm gonna study this, and that'll be who I am. But actually, as you progress through life, and not to an old age, like we're talking here, you're in your late teens, early 20s, you were able to, after doing business studies at university, to then think, well, actually, I want to try something new now, or I'm going to change my outlook and just shift gear. And I think that's an amazing message, because I think a lot of people just feel like, well, this is who I am, and this is who I'll always be. You could have easily went, well, how could I get into media? Like, I've got a business degree. Like, that's it's not who I am. I better go and get a job in business. But in fact, you took a reverse step, didn't you? You went back to college, which is kind of a reverse step to retrain. I think that takes a lot of courage, that, and I think we shouldn't be afraid to do that, should we?
Not at all. No, I agree. I don't want to speak. I wasn't very academic at school, if I'm honest. There was years when I was like, right, I'm gonna stick in, and then I didn't. So that's not a message. Like, please be academic and please stick in, because it's, I look back and I go, I just wish I'd tried a little harder in that respect. Or, you may say, oh, well, he's editing now, but it's very important. Education is very important, and I do look back and go, I wish I'd stuck in a little bit harder and what have you. But yeah, you're right. I guess I did do 2 degrees, so I finally figured it out when I got to university that I needed to be more into education.
Yeah, and I guess really trying hard for like exams and things like that it just helps to keep the doors open, doesn't it, and your options open. So if you do then want to shift gear or change your direction like you did, if you've got some grades in the bank, you can do that a bit more easily.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know. So you got your qualifications in terms of media, and one thing that I really like about your story, David, is the fact that then you suddenly realised, or maybe you realised earlier, that it wasn't just, right, I'll just pass my media course and then I'll be an editor. Like, next day, I'm an editor now, so I'll that's who I am. It actually takes a lot more work than that, doesn't it? After you've got your qualifications. Could you go into a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's definitely the case. It's one of those things where you graduate and you think, oh, I've done a few short films or what have you, whatever you've done, I'm an editor. But it's really not the case. And I learned that very quickly, because I'm still not very aware of much happening in the Northeast in terms of, say, TV drama. But I graduated and I was still working at McDonald's and doing data entry, and it was months down the line, because we graduated in, take me back, July. You finish in July, is that right? For the summer holidays? I'm trying to remember. It's been years. And so July 2005, say I finished, and then I didn't get a job, my first ever job in the industry, till January 2006. So you're talking half a year. It wasn't just like, here's a job, because that's the other thing that they don't teach you, and it is your own journey in finding a way into the industry. I'm sure it's probably still the same for a lot of people. It's no just like, here's a job. So a friend of mine had a job at a post-production facility, and post-production is, I'm sure, is editing and what have you, and was like, oh, there's a TV drama in the Northeast looking for an assistant editor. So there was that, there was a little bit like, well, I'm an editor, but assistant editor. But that's what I would say, which answers it backs up what you're saying, Dan, is, you can't just go straight in there and be, I'm an editor. It depends on the level of what you want to do and what you want to work in. But I found out very quickly that I'd have to start from the bottom and work my way up. You know, some people do start as runners on productions, and find their way in that way. And I've met a lot of runners who have gone on who are editors now, in fact. So it most definitely works. So that's what I mean about finding a different way in.
Could you let us know what a runner is?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. A runner, it depends on different departments of what a runner would do. But in terms of post production in like a facility, which I was about to mention, my friend was in, a runner basically would do like lunch orders, make teas and coffees, you know, just run, basically run from say in Soho in London, from different post houses, or you know, take a hard drive from one place to another, from, as I was mentioning earlier, to picture grading or sound mixing, taking that hard drive from the edit to places like that. So a runner works in different ways, and just basically it's like a fixer. It kind of like makes, you know, does grease the wheels and make things move along. So people do start off as runners, and I was lucky enough that I didn't, but I did become an assistant editor on this production, and I've kind of told the story before, but it's positive. I came on as an assistant editor, but within a week, I didn't know what I was doing because I'd never assisted before, and it is quite a hard job, and there's a lot to it. So as an assistant editor, within the first week, I got fired from the production. But luckily, the exec producer at the time of the job, Sandra Joblin, she also owned the company, and she found out that I was fired, and was like, "Oh, you know, this lad, he's done his education. He seems very keen and eager. He wants to work in this industry. Let's bring him back as a trainee." So I came back, you know, fired on the Friday, came back on the Monday as a trainee assistant editor, and that's what I mean about you can't just go straight in there. You do have to work for it, but I came back as a trainee assistant editor and then worked for about 5 or 6 months on that job. And by the end of it, I was assistant again because the assistant editor who trained me had to leave, and I was assistant. And then again, there was a bit of a gap. You know, you may find that if you get into this industry, that there is gaps between jobs. And I think I probably finished in, I'm trying to remember the dates now. Maybe it was like May or June of 2006. And then I went back to data entry, or I didn't go back to McDonald's. I think I finished that before, but I went back to data entry, and I did that for the rest of the year. And then January 2007, the same production called and was like, "Right, so you're going to come back and be an assistant editor again?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that was a thing. Like, you know, I didn't think you'd want me back." And they were like, "Well, that's why we trained you. That's why we put the time in. So please, you know, good, you come back." And I'm like, "Of course I'll go back." And then that was it. I was kind of off and working after that. You know, they had a few productions, so I would, you know, a couple of months off in between jobs, but you know, you learn to save enough money. That's another thing I would always impart, is like save your money. And you can take those time off between jobs and keep going. And that's, you know, that was me as an assistant editor when I first started out. Yeah.
So what was that production called? That first production?
It was called Wire in the Blood, and it's starring Robson Green. So again, like, you know, as we've talked about, I didn't see anything happening in the Northeast, and I had no idea. It's because I wasn't given like the knowledge of that, and still I was finding out on the jobs where the work was. And I'd heard of Wire in the Blood, and obviously I knew who Robson Green was, but I didn't know about this production happening in the Northeast. I would have just assumed it was filmed in the Northeast, but it was edited in London or something. But the beauty of this, it was all locally done. Like the editors were from London or, you know, from the South, but they'd travel up and they'd work there for a few months and then they'd go away again, which is what I later found out about myself, as I'd go away from the Northeast and work in London or wherever. So yeah, so then I was getting an insight into the world and being like, all right, so that things do happen in the Northeast. I had absolutely no idea. I wasn't told this, you know, and so that was it. And I'd still on the job, still be learning, like, how am I going to get more work? Because you can't always rely on that production to be there or to offer you a job. So as a freelancer, they may want to go with someone else, or the editor may have an assistant editor in mind. So you've always got to be thinking about that next job as a freelancer.
Yeah, it's interesting. We do some work, especially in our careers work, with the Northeast Local Enterprise Partnership, and they did a report about a year ago on 4 growing sectors in the Northeast, and one of them was creative and media.
Amazing.
So they're foreseeing that in the next 10 years, there's going to be a massive boom in creative and media jobs in the Northeast. So
that's great.
I guess for our students, now's kind of the prime time to if you want to go into that industry to do it, and there'll be more opportunities in the Northeast.
Brilliant.
It'd be great to go back to what you said about getting fired. Not to
Yeah.
labour the point for you, David, but
That's fine. I'm over it.
but I think it's in the past now, isn't it? Just to we talk a lot about at school resilience and
Right.
how failure is part of the journey to success, and it almost seems like a cliche sometimes, because we talk about, like someone like Steve Jobs who owned Apple, like how many businesses he had fail before Apple was a success, and Elon Musk similar had 100 companies fail before he found success, firstly with PayPal and then all of his companies since then. And I guess it's a hard one, isn't it? And even as I'm talking here, I'm kind of thinking about myself as well. It's a hard concept to grasp, that in order to be successful at whatever you want to do, you've got to be able to fail and get yourself up and carry on. And I guess your story kind of encapsulated, like, the first ever job. Like, I can imagine when you first got that job, you thought, this is it. This is the dream job.
Yeah.
And then within a few days to be sacked from it, like, how do you get yourself out of that hole, like mentally and in terms of your career?
Well, I mean, at the time, I probably did nearly cry. If I'm honest, I probably did. I'm not ashamed to say it. And I remember I did come away from it, and I was like, oh well, I tried. I don't know what to do now, and I went home. And I think my dad was, and then it was so long ago. I probably had a mobile phone. Of course, I had a mobile phone, but there was an answer phone message on the house phone at my parents' house. And my dad was just like, he listened to it. And he's like, Sandra's been on the phone, and she said she wants you to come back into the office on Monday and talk about becoming a trainee and stuff like that. And I did take a knock because, like, I'm not an editor. I'm an assistant editor. Oh, wait, no, I'm a trainee. And I was just like, oh, but also, I think that emotion of me nearly crying in the office when I got let go was because I got in there and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And there was so much, even when I was at university, that level of like doing presentations, I was terrible at doing stand-up presentations of like trying to pitch a movie idea or something like that. And, I'm still quite nervous to think about things like that, if I'm honest. I get to go to awards things, and it's always quite a nervous time sitting in the audience or what have you, not, things like that. I'm not answering your question. And yeah, it is about picking yourself up. My dad was just like, look, this is your dream, and this is the avenue that you want to go down. Like, you should really take Sandra up on this offer. And it was that I was like, you're absolutely right. And he was like, just go and see what she has to say. And then with that, then it was just a great feeling of then, all right, there's a little bit of pressure off me because I'm not the assistant editor, I'm the trainee. But then I was learning from assistant editor and assistant editor, editors, and seeing that world, and I just nailed it. And when I went back the second year, 2007, I was just like, I over prepared for everything. Like, I bought so much got them to order so much stationery, because I was like, well, we didn't have much stationery last time, and what else, right? There wasn't enough tea bags, I'll get some tea. Like, I was just like, but it's because I learnent from that failure, or that not failure, but that failure, I guess. What else can you say? That I over prepared, but that's what it's about. It is about getting those knocks, and then don't take no for an answer, and learning from it.
I think, and it's how you come back from it, isn't it? And
Definitely,
because you could have easily went, well, I'm clearly not good enough. I'm going to go away and pursue the business side of my qualifications. But it's about coming back, and if you've got a passion for it, if you really want to do something, it's just it's going back to it, isn't it? And thinking, well, it's one failure that, and there might be more, but actually, if it leads to a success, then it will be worth it a million times over, won't it?
Exactly.
So we got a question from Molly, and she said, what qualifications do you need to do your job? And I guess you've already kind of covered kind of what you did at college, but there's a lot more there, isn't there? Like you said, you don't just go straight from college into being an editor. And I think what strikes me about your story is that you put a lot of effort into kind of building relationships within your industry.
Definitely.
And I know and it'd be great for you to get into it. How some of the biggest jobs you got was not because you got a media qualification from college years ago. It's because you built relationships from day one. You built those relationships. And I guess kind of the importance then of it not just being about the qualification, but it being also about how you communicate with people, how you get along with people, and to not be too cheesy, but just that kind of being kind as well. I think building relationships with people and being kind to people, it goes a long way in any profession. But it'd be great for you to get into kind of how it's helped you actually. And I make that sound like you've done it to progress. I don't mean that. I mean like how just being like that has helped you progress.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you said it. I think, and to answer the question as well, like again, that was me trying to find out how to get my foot in the door, you know, the route to market, and the media degree. I was like, okay, then this will be great. And what was great about that, it's not just about having the qualification; it's about it's what you said. It's about learning the practical side of things, but also even at college and at school, you're learning life skills and you're learning how to interact with other people. And it is, I mean, this job is like 100% about communication. You know, yes, you're on your own for however many weeks before the director comes in, but you're still communicating back to the director while they're shooting, you know, feeding back saying it looks great, or maybe you need a pickup of this shot, like, you know, or what have you. But usually they know what they're doing, so you don't have to offer that information. So yeah, it is, the people side of things is 100% the. I'm trying to think, Dan. I'm trying to remember the question. It was such a long question. I'm like, that was a great question. It was very long. No, hold on.
I think
go on.
the what I was trying to drive at was how you, especially how you got the job on Doctor Who through your connections earlier on in your career.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So that again, I as I moved along, I did find different ways of advancing, but it's different ways of communicating. So like in the early days as an assistant editor, about getting more assistant editor work, it was with other editors. So if an editor needed you for a job, then I've already had that relationship with them by assisting them in the past. So it was about communicating and staying in touch. And so I was lucky enough to work in the Northeast for a couple of years, but then there was no more work in the Northeast, and the production I was working on moved to London, like to finish the edit. So I went down. I was so nervous, but I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to London and see what it's all about. So I was lucky enough to go down with work. It wasn't just going down and trying to find something, but I went to London on the job, and then it was a case of, as you say, the editors that I had relationships with the past because of a couple of years of working with different editors. I just got in touch with them and I was like, I'm in London now. Are you free for a coffee? Can we meet up and have a chat? You know, and just, it is a bit begging, but there's no, as I say, there's no like, for certain, it depends, but for certain jobs, there's no like advertisement in online, you know, we need an editor for this drama. It's usually being crewed up at that point. So I assisted editors who I'd worked with before, and then it was about them then mentioning me to someone else, and it would spiral from there, which was great. And then the editing side of things, when I finally stepped up after about 8 years as an assistant, I think it was about that long, I stepped up to editing. It was then the relationships with directors, and you know, because another editor may not get another editor a job. It depends, you know, because they've got their job and there's no other room availability for another editor. So it is then comes down to directors, or I'm trying to think of who else, like producers, post-production supervisors, may, you know, word of mouth may share your name around. I still don't really know, because I'm very lucky to have finally got an agent now who represents me. So, but it is, in the early stages, it was like the Doctor Who job, you know, that one, that was through a director who I'd worked with on Vera, and so, you know, I was very lucky there that we'd worked together before. We'd had a working relationship, and he was like, I've got this job on Doctor Who. Are you available? And I was like, because I'm a massive fan of the show. Way before I got into the industry, just where it started. The revival started in 2005. I started in 2006, but still, I love the original, like back in the day. So yeah, it was through that. Again, communication is. I always say this to assistant editors, and communication is massively vital, because if you're stressed or you're not going to get something to the editor on time, say the material, like the daily rushes, it's just about being like, this is going to be a little bit late, and then it manages expectations. The editor's not like, where's this material? They are like, all right, it's going to be an hour, or it's going to be half an hour, whatever. So I always say that, write everything down as well. That's another key thing. Like if you've got a to-do list, I love a to-do list. I'm staring at a notepad right now, thinking I was going to take notes, and I haven't, but I'm ready in case I have to. So take notes and then communicate, like massively strong things to do. Yeah.
I hear it's also is it very hard to jump from being an assistant editor to the main editor on a show.
Yeah, it can be, because there is many editors, and it's also it is. I mean, for me, it was kind of, I was assistant for, as I say, 8 years, and I was editing short films, just to build up a show reel. I was doing short films, show reels for directors and for actors, and just also what that was doing. That's not that. Again, that's not negative or failure. It's about building your experience. That's also building relationships with directors or with actors or what have you, or editing show reels for other editors, which I've maybe done 1 or 2 when I was an assistant. And it's that's not you not being an editor, that's just you gaining more experience. So I never looked back and went, I wasted so much time. I didn't. I was like an assistant editor, but I was also editing 3 or 4 projects on my downtime, or like after hours, weekends. I was constantly just like, I have to try and make this work and make this happen. So I was doing like little sizzle reel, like pilot pitches for like TV programs that never actually went anywhere, but it was just like, but again, that was just I'm trying to remember how I got those jobs really, but like they were just little bits and pieces to just keep it going and to have something to show for yourself. Because then so in terms of my story of how I stepped, it was on a TV program called Mr. Selfridge, and I was assistant on the first series, and I'd been, as I keep saying, assistant for about 8 years, and I was like, am I ever going to step up? Is this ever going to happen? But I'm still working in the industry I love, and as an assistant, it is kind of hard because I want to be in that chair and I want to be editing, and it was just timing really. It was an editor was who I'd assisted in the past, who knew how hard I'd been working, had a job interview for a block, and a block of a TV program is more than 1 episode sometimes, and in this case it was 3 episodes. And I said to the editor Liana before she came on, I was like, if there's any chance when you come on that middle episode, like I'd love to edit that. And she was just like, right, okay, let me see what I can do. And in the interview, she was like, I'd love to come and do this program, but like David's really at that point now, and he'd love to, edit an episode. And they were like, yeah, I know David's been made this very aware that he wants to do that, because that's what I was going to say before I came back. I was like, for the second series, I was like, I will come back as an assistant, but like, can I just put it out there that I want to edit? And like, it was getting to that point, because I was still very nervous about like asking and telling people that. I definitely wasn't telling people I was an editor. I was an assistant editor, because I didn't feel like, because I didn't have that broadcast credit or anything of that level to show. I didn't want to be that person that was like, oh, I'm an editor, because I'd worked that long as an assistant editor, and I'd obviously been fired in the first place as an assistant editor to a trainee. I realized you can't just go straight in there and be like, this is me. I mean, you definitely have the dream and the ambition, but you can't just be like, that's me, that's what I am, because people aren't going to recognize that. And also you might not do a very good job, and then you've kind of set yourself up for a bit of a fall. But anyway, so it did work out. Liana got the job, and the director, who'd already directed other episodes, he was like, yeah, that's fine. And then I was still assistant, and I had a second assistant who I trained, Tom, and I I would assist in the morning, and then say a scene would come in for me. I'd edit that, and then I was building the episode. It was the second last episode of the second series, and then by the end of the shoot, we still kept Tom on as the assistant editor, and he looked after Liana and technically me as well. But I was kind of assistant. Well, I was editing, so he was looking after me. Sorry, and then I finished my episode, and it went down very well. Not many notes, and it locked. It means the episode's finished. we locked it, and then that was it. And then but then it's like starting out again, because okay, I can call myself an editor. I can finally say that, but I still have only edited one thing. Like, where's the next thing going to come from? And again, it's about so a lot of assistants, editors go back to assistant for a bit, but I was a bit like, I've managed to save up enough money to sustain like my bills and what have you. And I was living in London as well. That's the other thing we should really say is like, you may have to move away to get that, to chase that dream. I know it sounds very like cliche, but yeah, it was a dream. It is a dream. So I did go away to London, and I was living in London, and then it was just a case of then finally having something to show for myself and just putting it out there, and then just chasing old contacts or new contacts. And then I went on to, funny enough, then come back to the Northeast to edit Wolf Blood, which was a kid show for CBBC. I think it was for the BBC, and I came back and edited one of those, and then luckily someone put me forward for Holby City. Then I went and edited that, and then it just kind of kept momentum from there, and that was it.
Yeah, I like that, the idea of that, the persistence, like you kind of just kept knocking on doors, kept sending emails, kept saying, can I do this, can I do that, and then even and kind of the guts to be able to say, right, I'll come and be an assistant editor, but I want to go at editing, like, because that could have backfired, couldn't it? They could have went, well, actually, we'll just get someone else to be the assistant editor, and then you wouldn't have had even that job at all. So I think what I'm taking from what you're saying, David, is the risk taken and the persistence to get what you want and to get where you want to get. And I don't think that can be underestimated, can it?
No, not at all. No, I think you're right.
Yeah, because how else do people hear about you and know about you if you don't actually knock on the door or send them that email? But yeah, it's and I think it's a great takeaway, I think, from this webinar, that you got your, like Molly's question was saying, what qualifications? Well, you got your qualifications, but then it's also those building the relationships, it's the persistence, it's the taking the risks, and keeping on doing that. And yeah, it's obviously paid off for you. You mentioned Doctor Who there. I'm just going to Jude. I'm just going to throw in a bit of a curveball question here. Jude has asked, "Have you got any inside knowledge on whether Richard Ayoade is going to become the next Doctor?" I just wanted to get that in there for Jude.
No, I really don't. I don't know anything. Sorry, Jude. I really don't. I mean, no. I've got nothing.
That would be cool, though. I think
that'd be amazing. Yeah, why not?
I've got another recorded question from Harris.
Okay.
How much time and how many people does it take to edit an episode?
Right. Okay. Very good question. I mean, it always seems like a blur. That's the thing. I never really remember. I know the months that I've been on something, but I never know like the turnaround time for things. But the thing I'm currently working on, it's 3 30-minute episodes for Netflix, and so I'm trying to think of the post-production schedule, which gives you an idea of your dates that you've got to hit. And at the moment, the shoot for 3 episodes is 6 weeks, I think. I'm trying to remember. I think it's about 6 weeks for the shoot, but that's like material for all of those episodes. And then I assemble, as I've mentioned, as the shoot's happening. And then when the director comes in at the end of those 5-6 weeks, we then work on each episode. Say it depends, but most of the time we work on each episode individually. So we'll sit down together and we'll watch it. Then we'll fine tune every scene, performance, music, things like that. And I think at the moment we've got 5 days per episode before then we have to show it to the producers and to Netflix and get their feedback and then work on their notes. So I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm on this job until April, so that's only it's like 4 months for 3 episodes. So 4 months for 3 episodes, and it just depends when you get into the nitty gritty about it. But I think like 5 days per 30-minute episode with the director before we present it, and then hopefully, if we've done a good job, the notes after we've presented it we're quite minor. So maybe it's a couple of days here and there finishing it before then we lock the episode and it's done. So yeah, it's a very vague way of answering that question, but yeah,
it's interesting when you talk about notes, because I guess that's probably similar to like when you're in school and you get feedback from your teachers.
Totally.
Could you talk to us about how that works? Because even though you're kind of editing some of these big shows, you still have to take feedback, don't you?
Definitely, yeah. And it's like, don't take it to heart. It's like, it's you can get upset by, I've tried so hard and I've put the music on and I've done the sound effects. Like, why am I getting notes on this? But it can be about people's taste or adhering to what the show should be overall, because the producers and the network, networks, Netflix, or the way it's getting out into the world, they are looking at the bigger picture of the show overall, because obviously you step in and do an episode or a couple of episodes, you're like, as I say, a small cog in the machine. So I don't always get that upset by notes, because I know most of the time it's coming from a good place of it's going to make the show better. You can get frustrated. Obviously you can get frustrated, but to know that it is making the program a better thing and it's not a personal attack on you, then it's fine.
yeah, definitely,
yeah.
Jaden asks as well, when you're watching the episodes or editing the bits, do you ever get so drawn in by them, by like the story, that you just kind of find yourself lost in the episode while you're editing it?
Yeah. Yeah, because as I say, sometimes you've got to watch 4.5 hours worth of material. But what's fun about it as well, you won't see this on TV, but you can see little bits of behind the scenes as well, because you're not there as an editor. I mean, sometimes at the moment, because of lockdown and technology being so amazing, Zooms and things like this, web chats, I'm in a room by myself, so I do get captivated by seeing the material, because it's something I haven't seen before and I wasn't there. So yeah, you do. And also, like, say you've got a viewing and you've done a good job and you can relax when you've done your part of the job, and it's up for the producers to watch. And back in the day before lockdowns, you'd be in the room with those people and you just sit, and the first viewing can be a bit cringy and a bit worrying because you're worried what they're going to say. But if it depends, if it's the second viewing or the third viewing, you're kind of more relaxed and you just watch it. I feel that I can't just switch off and not look at my side of my craft and the way I've put it together. I can't just watch it as a viewer. So yeah, I do get suckered in by it and just watch it. Yeah.
Do you ever get to go and visit the sets and meet the actors and everybody?
Yeah. Well, just to go back to the question about Richard Ayoade, I've met Jodie Whittaker, the current Doctor, and she's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Because, as I say, you're in a room by yourself, and very kindly the director talked about me on set, and like sometimes got the actors to mention me to camera. So it'd be nice, you'd be editing and all of a sudden you'd hear your name and you'd be like, what? And then like Brady Walsh will just be like talking to me. So weird. For like, I mean, I kind of like did say, can you get them to speak to me once in a while? And then Jamie, the director, was like, yeah, sure. And then all the time people would just be like talking to me. But when I met Jodie, it was amazing, because we were getting the cast and crew photo in front of the TARDIS, and I had to go down because I was really close to the sets for that as well. So I like to keep away from the sets, because I don't want it to cloud the way I put things together. I think it was a very famous editor, Walter Murch, was like, he never visited the set because he wants to see it on the screen and doesn't want to like think about the politics or how it was lit, or who was drinking a coffee beside the camera that day, or things like that. So I was like, yeah, that's really good advice. That's my excuse for not going to the set as well. Not because I'm antisocial, no, or I'm getting nervous. But So yeah, and I met Jodie, and Jodie came over, and she was like, "Oh, you're Dave," and I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, I went to give her a handshake, and she gave me a massive hug, and I was like, "Oh, you're amazing! Like, this is amazing," you know. And then yeah, so I do get to go to the sets to answer your question. And His Dark Materials, I was editing the second series beside the sets, so it was a lot more. Would go for like walks around, because now it's out and I can talk about it. But like Chittagazze is like the world that they go to. And they built that set, and it was a massive set build in the back of the lot. I mean, I guess you can call it a lot, but it was a little warehouse. And it was just absolutely amazing to walk around, like the level of construction and set design. It was a it wasn't working, but it was a full town, like the cobbles and this massive tower. And just, yeah, it was absolutely amazing. So yeah, I do get to go to sets sometimes.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think we talked a lot about the technical side of your job, but I think what just came through there was the artistry, like the fact that what you're doing is an art. Do you see it like that?
No.
Forget that then. Forget that.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm an artist or anything. I'm not like. Hopefully, I'm not big-headed. Not saying that artists are big-headed. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah. I don't know if you can get so bogged down in your craft that you don't think about the bigger picture. But that's why, as you say, and as I've said, it is great watching the finished thing, because you can just take a step back and be like, oh, all those arguments we had, like not arguments, but all those possible like discussions we had about a scene, and then you look at it and you're like, yeah, like it. I'm always humbled, I guess, and I'm always excited, and I always think about. Like I can watch something and do sometimes think about like what was happening on the day, and I go, oh yeah, it was totally right that we did that. That's totally worked, and then I'll just get back on watching the program. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've got so many questions in my head that I want to go into, but yeah, I'll park them for now. But
Okay.
just coming up to kind of the last question, and it's we had two students, Ben and Millie, ask similar questions. And they've said, well, Ben in particular said, he started off really nicely. Actually, says, "Thanks for your time today." He said,
thanks, Ben.
he says, "It's my ultimate ambition to work in the media. In particular, I want to become a TV or film director. What advice can you give me on how to get started in the media, gain work experience, and to make the most of any opportunities available?" And Millie's got a similar question where she says, "Can you give advice to anyone who would like to get involved in the TV industry?"
Well, I think I don't think we really spoke about this earlier, but I also, when I was at college, I got a camera. I mean, it's a lot easier nowadays, but like it was like a mini DV camera, and I was shooting short films with my friends when Dan and I worked at McDonald's together. We were shooting short, like not Dan and I, but when I was at McDonald's, I was shooting short films.
That's
with
me,
friends.
by the way. I don't, the kids won't.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
But
sorry,
it's all right.
Sorry. And I was going to ask you before we started this meeting, like, am I calling you Mr. Fitzpatrick? Or
No, it's fine.
Dan?
Don't worry.
Sorry, as Mr. Fitzpatrick and I used to work at McDonald's together. But yeah, we didn't work together on short films, but I was filming short films. So for that as well, my experience was, my advice would be to just do your own thing. Camera phones are amazing now, and people do shoot things on camera. Like, there's so much like creative things on YouTube, or I'm not on TikTok, but I've seen a lot of creative things from TikTok, and it's just amazing. Like it's amazing that I've still got a job at the level when things like are happening down here. It's not. I mean, that sounds a bit derogatory, but it's not. But like lower level things, I guess. But like with that as well, you can put things on YouTube. I did put a lot of the short films I made on YouTube, but I was then in the industry, so I couldn't really keep feeding that like channel and giving it content. But I think if that's advice would be just to get out there and do things really, and just create. And as I say, when I was at university studying computing for business, I was writing scripts, and I'd never wrote scripts before. I'd never had a device at that point because I hadn't done media. So I was just writing what I thought a script would be. And I was just like Microsoft Word, and I wasn't writing it in this correct script format. But then when I finally went and did media production, I went to the library there and took, I can't remember what script it was now, but I rented out a script and just looked, and I was like, this is what a script looks like. The format, the font size and everything. And then eventually there is script writing programs. final draft that eventually I think I got my hands on something like that. I think it was some Screenwriter Pro or something, and I could format scripts properly. And it was just a buzz from that as well. It's like excitement of like, oh, this is what a script looks like. Okay, and I've just created this. This is amazing. And then we'd film short films, and that was me. I'd direct, do the camera. I think a friend would light and do sound design and sound recording. And that was also just so I had things to edit because I still wanted to be an editor. So I'd go out and do the other things to get to that point as well. So that, I hope that answers the question. But like, just, yeah, you know, I'd get out there and do as much as you can and find a way. Pick up your camera phone and film. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that so important, isn't it? That fact, I think it's school, especially our students at Tanfield School. You're gonna get your BTECs, your GCSEs at the end of year 11, but there's so much more you could be doing on top of that as well. Like, don't be limited just by what the school's offering. Obviously, put maximum effort into it, but actually gain experience when you're outside of school. Join different clubs, get experience. Do if your passion is in TV, like David, like you said, like. Do it on a weekend. Like there's no one to say, oh, you're not in the TV industry, so you can't make TV shows
Exactly.
or a YouTube show. Like you can do it. You could do it now. You could do it after school tonight. You could do it anytime you want. And I guess you got to do it until you get the job, don't you? You can't just turn up on the first day and be like, I'd like to give it a go if I can. You've actually got to say, well, actually, I've done this, I've done that. And now's the time to do that. I don't think I don't think you wait till after school, do you? You crack on now.
No.
David, it's been amazing to catch up with you after all these years.
I know.
And and for you to come in and talk to the school, to our students. I'm really grateful for your time.
Thank you.
And we all are. So and I'm sure we're all going to be looking out to see your name on the credits at the end of shows into the future. And thanks for answering our students' questions as well. It's been amazing.
That's okay. No, thank you. Hopefully I was helpful and clear, and hopefully it helps. And good luck everybody out there as well. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Cheers.
Thank you.